Good evening, my fellow Democrats. There is such an incredible energy in this room tonight, and sometimes I honestly have to take a step back. 20 years ago, I never, ever imagined that I would be invited to speak before crowds like this. And at my core, I am and I will always just be Jordan's mother. The mother of Jordan Davis is the most important title that I will ever hold. On November 23rd, 2012, my life completely changed in an instant. I'm sure there are some of you in this room tonight that know my story, but maybe not all. So please bear with me while I spend just a few moments recounting my story. My son Jordan was simply out with his friends shopping on Black Friday. And as 17-year-olds often do, they planned to pick up girls at the mall. So my son Jordan said, "Hey guys, we gotta stop at the gas station and get some chewing gum, because you can't have bad breath if you're gonna pick up girls at the mall." And within that 3.5 minutes that they stopped for that chewing gum, a man named Michael Dunn pulled up next to them on the passenger side where my son was sitting. And he said that they were simply playing their thug music too loudly. He antagonized the boys, and he told them to turn down their thug music. And in particular, he antagonized my son Jordan. Now, I raised my son to stand up for his friends. I raised him to speak out in the face of injustice and to always fight for what is right. Michael Dunn took a gun out of his glove box and fired 3 rounds at my son. He proceeded to get out of his car, take a shooter's stance, and fired several more rounds at the boys, killing my son Jordan. And overnight, I went from a Marietta mom to a mother on a mission. And I vowed that I would not stop at anything to receive justice for my son, just as I vow now to receive justice for democracy for us all. It took me 2.5 years to get a conviction for my son's killer. We became one of the only cases like this in the country to end with a conviction. But the convictions were not the end of my fight. They were just the beginning. I went on to work for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America and Every Town for Gun Safety, fighting across this country for safer gun laws. I traveled the nation, speaking to our state legislators, and even before the body of which I now serve. Yes, I spent time talking to my fellow colleagues in the United States Congress about the importance of reforming our gun laws. But then, I saw the tragedy in Parkland, Florida. Kids who were the same age as my son Jordan, running out of their school, running to save their lives. After this shooting, something different happened. It seemed just for a moment, just for a split moment, the nation may have turned a corner on gun violence. President Trump gathered congressional leaders together, and they even joked about the influence of the NRA. And he even said, "Oh, you don't need to be afraid of the NRA. We actually need background checks." And I thought, well, maybe something good is truly going to happen. But President Trump and the Republicans still did nothing. And I decided that if I were truly going to call myself a mother of the movement, if I was truly going to protect our families and our children, I would have to stand up and run for office myself. So I announced my run for the United States Congress. Now, let me be very honest with you. When I announced my candidacy for Georgia's 6th Congressional District, just 1 year before, it was home to one of the most expensive House elections in history. And I had all sorts of people calling me and telling me that I couldn't win. And everyone had a different reason why I couldn't win. And that they said I couldn't win because it was the district, the politics of the district. They said it was because of the demographics. They said it was because I am a woman of color. They called me the dark horse, and trust me, I know that has a couple of meanings. And I have to be even more honest with you. Even after I made it through a 4-way primary, a competitive runoff, I was told over and over again that I simply could not win this race. But there are few powers, few forces more powerful than a mother fighting for the legacy of her son. And fighting for the safety of our families and our communities. So I continued to run my race and was able to build the support that I needed. Thank you to many, many, many of you in this room. When we all stood united, we were able to ensure that Karen Handel never even completed a full term in Congress. And boy, did that make the National Republicans mad. I am a top target of the National Republican Party. And let me tell you, they will do and say anything to take this seat back. They were so mad that they elected a new NRA president who lives in my district. She is my constituent. And in one of her very first interviews, the interview that she had as the leader of the NRA, she said that I, Lucy McBath, only won this seat, not because of my stance on guns, but because I was a black woman. News to us, right? In her first few weeks of leading the NRA, she was forced to apologize to me. That was a new one. And I said, because I really mean this, I don't need an apology from her. The only apology I would ever accept is the NRA stopping and stop putting profits over the lives of public safety. Now, National Republicans, they have harassed my family. It has already begun. I have 5 challengers. And one Republican commentator even said on his radio show that he was going to knock me back into the kitchen so that I could get back to needlepoint and cooking or whatever it is. But you know, it's pretty funny because I don't know how to do any of those things. But through all of these attacks, I am proud to stand as the only woman elected in the Georgia congressional delegation. And it's absolutely critical that we support vulnerable members like me in our re-elections and all over this nation. Because maintaining and building on our majority in Congress is more important than ever. The time for action is now. We cannot be complacent. This is the new South. we deserve real policy change. And I am proud of all that we have accomplished in this New South, but we've got so much more work to do. My race is one that can truly show you, that can truly be an example of what can happen when we all work together. And our victory has led to many meaningful policy changes at the federal level. The House has passed substantial and meaningful gun violence prevention legislation in H.R. 8. We passed a full campaign finance reform package in H.R. 1 to fix our broken democratic system. And I am proud to have introduced the Election Official Integrity Act of 2019, a bill that would prevent state election officials from running in federal races that they oversee. We must prevent what happened here in Georgia last year from ever happening at the federal level. My story simply started because I was just an ordinary mom who stood up to demand better for our children, better for our families, better for our futures. Our political climate is more uncertain than it has ever been in years. But even so, this nation responded in force by electing the most diverse freshman class in the United States history. And that truly gives me hope, and that should give every one of you hope. Many of the newly elected women that I serve with are just everyday moms, everyday teachers, and everyday nurses. We never planned to run for office. And even though our challenges in this country are daunting, I have no doubt that those moms, those teachers, and those nurses are going to save this country. So as our good friend Michael Thurman said earlier, it's time. It is absolutely time. So rise up. Thank you.